Welcome back, Hordlings, to more Trilby's Notes. Only one match left. I took it anyways. Let's ascend the stairs. It was a circular white heat sensor, presumably tied to the hotel's fire safety. Holy shit. What was that noise? I pushed my way through the door and descended the fire escape. Alrighty, right. But there's a crowbar on the table. I took the crowbar with me. Perhaps it could serve a purpose. I climbed back up the ladder and entered the same floor I'd come from. Oh shit. Back in the fucked up world, I see. As I suspected, the stretch proved too much for the ancient crowbar, which was bent to uselessness. I discarded it. I took another pill. A loud buzzing played in my ears, and my vision began to cloud as I reached over and laid my hand upon the tool, the chisel. Somewhere in the Atlantic, July 25th, 1789. Mobutu had been a great warrior. In battle his skill was thought unmatched in all of Africa. He had respect, the great house, a slew of beautiful women, children to make any father proud, but through just one mistake it had all been torn away. His mistake was in standing by his beloved king when the invaders from the coastal kingdom arrived. Now his great house was ruined, his women raped, his children murdered. And for Mbuta, the worst fate of all, sold to the white men in exchange for weapons, shackled with his fellows in the hold of a slave ship. Mbuta was strong. Perhaps he could have lived as a slave, but then came the sickness. A simple fever, no doubt, to be gone the next day, but the white men took no chances and threw him overboard. For days Mbutu drifted, waiting for the black cloud of death to descend. Having lost everything, he now sought only the embrace of the deep, a welcome end to a life betrayed. But that end did not come then. Over and around, Captain. Voices unfamiliar, speaking an unfamiliar language. Mbuta was suddenly terrified that the slavers must have returned, but he was as weak as a newborn and could not move or speak. Looks like we picked him up just in time. Don't know how long he's been drifting out here, but he can't have lasted much longer. Good Lord. Look upon it, men. The greatest evidence we have of humanity's inherent evil. Never forget that, men. Sailors such as you as I did this. Left this poor wretch to die. Slavers aren't sailors like you or I, Captain. No. I do not know how these devils can have such audacity to still call themselves human. Today there is no pride in being an Englishman. Find our new passenger some quarters. Make him comfortable. Passenger, Captain. Every innocent who sets foot on my ship is a free man. Is there something about his policy you find questionable? Not at all, Captain. No, these were not the slavers. The ship was different, less crowded with terrified black faces. There was anger in the voices of the white men, but not directed at Umbuto. Still frightened and somewhat reassured, Umbuto passed out. Days passed and Umbuto's health was restored. To have been rescued by the ship of these good white men had been a fantastic stroke of good fortune. He decided that it had been the will of the gods that it should survive, and that proper thanks would be in order. An idol, that was the answer. If he could just find a suitable wood and a sharp blade, he would carve the finest idol of his life. There were several crewmen tending to the ship scattered around the deck. Despite the language barrier, Umbuto could tell that they were friendly and cordial. Umbuto could not understand the white man's language. Any communication would have to be non-verbal. Unfortunately, the white men could not understand clicks and clacks of Umbuto's voice. All right there, laddie. Oh, I see. You want something to carve with. Here. The sailor handed Umbuto a sharp, almost brand new workman's chisel. Just bring it back when you're finished with it. With the chisel and the wood of the crate, Umbuto could finally create his offering. After several hours, Umbuto was very pleased with the result, a fine rendition of his kingdom's god of fertility and good fortune. All that remained now was to return the chisel. Well, that doesn't look good. Fuck. Poor Umbuto. The vision faded, and I felt myself being hurled forcefully back into the present day. That tall, thin creature, that black cat ghoul, what was its significance to my predicament? Why did it appear again and again throughout history to spread death and horror? There was no connection to the idol shape or Umbuto's tribal deities. The tall man was no fertility god. It must have been connected to the wood of that crate somehow. There had been a name on that crate. Umbuto hadn't been able to read it, but I, looking through the eyes, had. O'Malley's shipping. Could the owner have been an ancestor of Siobhan? It was a flimsy possibility, but at that point, my only lead, I resolved to discuss this with Siobhan at the earliest opportunity. I recognized it as being the same name of the source of the one under the painting in the lobby. Victim 4, the slave. I, the fourth man who desired judgment, was the slave, who had not been brought Frion's message, and who tormented them the wood that was Prince Sol's with a sharpened blade. The prince came to him, and he was struck the slave down, and he knew the name of the king. 2. The prince said, "Not one of your household shall I leave alive, slave, for thrice now have I brought my warning, and any who still fail to heed shall be named as foul, and judged most unworthy in all sight." Finally, Oh, it's you, Terry. I thought you might have been serving staff at last. Do-ba-da-do-do. Go ahead and fuck off. Mr. Trilby!
Have you seen any of the hotel staff anywhere?
I'm afraid not.
Perhaps they go to bed early in these ports.
Perhaps. Wanna fuck? Do you know anything about the history of your family?
I wouldn't be a much history student if I didn't now, would I? I'm researching my family tree as part of my diploma.
That's ideal. I appreciate this may sound an odd question, but trust me when I say it's important. Did your family run a shipping company in the late 18th century?
That is an odd question, but I do remember reading something about O'Malley shipping. I'd have to check my notes. I left them in my book bag. Could you meet me in my room in about 5 minutes? I'm 2A, next to a bed.
Certainly.
I'll see you there then.
Stokazola. It was a page from a religious book I wasn't familiar with. I here enclose it with these notes. Victim 5, the child. The fifth man who desired judgment was the child, whose father held the carving of the slave. The prince came to him, and was at rightly pleased at what he'd found, for the house of the child and his father already knew well the name of the king. 2. And as the prince watched, the child was thrown down by his father and broken with the wood of the prince's sword. But as the child's body, mind, and soul began to drift apart, the prince held them together and said, "You are the child, and to you I grant power, for I see in you the potential that will grant my father, the king, his greatest wish. You shall not be that of the land of technology, nor of the realm of magic, but of both, and thus you shall form the bridge. And across the bridge the king shall come to bring his message to the man of technology. Through you, child, the bridge will come, and thus I name you the bridge keeper." And the prince touched the child, and he was the bridge keeper, and his 3 aspects were granted power, so that his soul would join with the prince's soul in the wood of the tree. Blah 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 blah. Who gives a shit? Get on with the game. This isn't story time.
In, please, Terry.
You have the papers.
Must you always get right down to business? Come and sit down, let's talk. How are you feeling? We were a little worried about you.
I have these moments of illness. What do you want to talk about?
The Fall Manor.
Oh?
It kind of interests me. I was really into the media coverage of the incident at the time. This client of yours, the one who wants the figurine, what does he know about it?
Well, his interest in the occult, and there's some nonsense story going around about it. Something about the idol being a vessel for an evil ghost. I wasn't really paying attention.
Really? I don't remember hearing about any of that in the reports.
No, you wouldn't have. It wasn't widely...
Have you heard the story that Trilby was in the house?
I could feel cold sweat drooling down my spine. Every fiber of my being was concentrating on not giving any outward signs of alarm, as Sealbon spoke of my secret name with the wide-eyed enthusiasm.
No one believes it, but Simone Taylor insisted it was true right up until, well, you know. She says he saved her from the house.
I think that's a little far-fetched.
That's exactly what the bud says. He says a ghost is one thing, but throwing Trilby into it just makes it seem silly. Truth be told, I don't think a bed believes in Trilby any more than he does Ghost. He's so grounded in reality.
A sensible attitude.
Have you always been an antique dealer?
Sailman, please, I came here to talk about...
Let me put that another way. Have you ever been an antique dealer? I knew it. The outfit, the hat, Terry Trilby. You're him. You were in the Defoe Manor. And now you've come here to finish off the ghost.
Sailman.
I always knew there was something else. In this world, there was something better, more glamorous, just below the surface. Will you take me with you?
Listen to me. There's nothing glamorous about what I do. I live in the shadows that threaten to consume me every single day. And if you pursue this any further, you're going to walk straight into one.
What? What are you talking about?
There is something extremely dangerous in the hotel. I don't know what it is, but... Oh, shit! Take this, motherfucker! Boom! Oops. Sailman was out cold, but uninjured. I kicked her right in the fucking dome piece. And she was, gonna be out for a little while. Under the circumstances, Sailban probably wouldn't mind. There are a few textbooks and half-empty water bottle, and a large folder marked O'Malley family history. This, I decided, was my quarry. I flipped through the pages until I reached the information relevant to the 18th century and read my discoveries out loud. The Liverpool-based O'Malley Shipping Company ran for 3 generations of the family in the mid-late 18th century until the loss of one of their clippers drove the company to bankruptcy. The owner at the time, Jacob O'Malley, blamed the blame somewhat irrationally on a shipping crate, which the family alleged to be haunted, and that had been on the ship at the time. There are numerous tales of bizarre events surrounding the crate, and the story of the crate's origin is no less mysterious. It goes that a strange young man came to the carpenters at Liverpool dockyards with a very expensive-looking harpsichord, which he insisted be smashed up on the wood and used for whatever purpose the carpenter desired. He refused to leave until the instrument had been utterly broken into the component parts in front of his eyes, and the wood sent to be made into crates for O'Malley shipping. When pressed for his name, the man identified himself as one Jack Freehorn. The Rooms of Jack Freehorn, July 28, 1778. So what trifle have you been wasting your father's money on now, Jack? What does it look like? It looks like virginal. A harpsichord actually, in the Flemish style. Quite old and quite expensive. Well, I suppose I should be grateful for something distracting you from the occult for once. I fear you may be speaking too soon, my friend. Oh, God. I should have known you and your silly obsession. So what devilry inhabits the magnificent instrument? The instrument as a whole is the most part untainted by the ethereal realm. But its keys are what spark my interest. Unusually, they have been carved from century-old English oak. And that's an interesting part. I will not be disheartened by that sharp tongue of yours. The word has gone through many incarnations before being incorporated into this device. Items of furniture, building material, in fact, just over 200 years ago, it was part of a wall. A wall of certain inn, of a well-travelled road in Wales. The unicorn, I am so pleased you remember. I could hardly forget it, the way you have been obsessing quite heartily over it of late. Your correspondent persists in filling your head with rubbish about ghosts and demons. I count myself very lucky to have tracked down even a small piece of that history. I know I've already told you of some of the wonderful stories attached to it. And this instrument has had its fair share of mysterious happenings. The usual batch of strange noises, sudden madness, and inexplicable deaths. See sense, my friend. The curiosity of yours of all things ungodly has no doubt already befouled your immortal soul. You are a fine fellow, Wilbur, but you have not a drop of romance in your body. Now, stop browbeating me for inquiring mind, and let us take dinner. That night, Jack was stirred from his bed by the sound of music emanating from a new instrument. His first thought was anger, mostly because the harpsichord was an antique, never intended to be played. But then he listened to the haunting, melancholy tune and felt his stomach roll inexplicably with fear. Who's down there? Wilbur, is that you? What the fuck? Jack could not take a step further, because he realized with a lurch that he had recognized the dark figure that sat in the keys. He had read of this strange entity that reoccurred frequently in stories surrounding the Unicorn Inn, and the objects that were there later constructed from its wood. He knew that with absolute certainty that the tall man would destroy him, were he not destroyed first. Jack took the gun with him to confront the intruder. You won't taunt me, demon! Wilbur? No! Oh God, no, but I could have sworn... You! I know you. You have... Oh God. Please forgive me, your majesty, for my transgressions. I am a worthless, craven fool, not worth a second of your precious time. I beg you, spare me. I will redeem myself for my offense. I will be yours forever, my body, mind, and soul. Thank you, my lord. Thank you. Identified himself as one Jack Freon. This may well have been the same Jack Freon who went on a form of bizarre religious cult. A depraved group of paganistic worshippers who was spoken of much derision by a conventional society. With my latest flashback, my knowledge of the history of the cursed wood gained another step. Before the crate, it had been a harpsichord, and some time before the harpsichord had been part of some kind of upholstery in Wales. An inn called the Unicorn. Why did that ring a bell somewhere in my recent memory? I had definitely seen something in the Claiborne Hotel that was linked to the place, but where? Sealbon. She's gone. Victim 3, Freehorn. The third man who desired judgment was Freon, who had bought from those made luxuries with the wood that was the prince's soul. The prince came and struck down the lover of Freon, and Freon knew the name of the king. And Freon said, I know you now, O prince, who was the arrogant man, and I anticipate your wish, and I will devote myself to spreading the teachings you have brought me, and the love of our king. And the prince was satisfied, and Freon called all those who would listen, and they formed an order of the blessed agonies, that would work to redeem the follies of the men of technology. I took another pill and waited for the anxiety to lift, but it did not. To my unending concern, I realized that the decay of the alternate hotel had spread either to me or to the pills, and they no longer worked. I had to find a way to restore the effect, or at least another method of calming myself. Maybe I should masturbate in the corner. From somewhere to the west, I heard the familiar sound of a door being unlocked. Lakeman? I tore off a lump of meat to take with me. If I came up against anything hostile and carnivorous in this place, it would help to have something other than myself to offer it. Holy sheep shit. What had once been a kitchen was now some kind of torture room. I found myself wondering whether it had been used for extracting information or merely to entertain the alternate hotel's hellish proprietor. Either way, the place was fucked up. A horribly tormented soul was still lying on the central counter, limbs arranged oddly from spasms of agony. In the far corner of the room was a puddle of water created by drips above. It had a curious color to it, and the drops seemed to glow with their own illumination. The liquid was having a strange effect on a nearby corpse. At least 2 individuals had met with sticky ends down here. One of them had been almost completely picked clean by the beetles. The other I noticed was heavily decayed except for its hand, which was fresh and pink. I wondered if this had something to do with the puddle of water it was lying in. It was almost as if the water was drawing me to it, not like a scrabbling thing in my mind, like the chisel or the painting, but more like a beckoning siren. I drank. I couldn't help myself. I crouched down and dipped my hand in. It felt uncommonly refreshing and brought a mount to my lips, my unhygienic surroundings forgotten. As a pleasant feeling of simultaneous coolness and warmth spread from my stomach, I realized that the water had some sort of rejuvenating effect. I had no explanation for this, but at the time I didn't care. I was beginning to feel in the back of my mind the familiar tickling sensation that indicated a reality shift, so I swiftly scooped a few drops of liquid into my pill bottle, shaking it through the remaining pills. Boom shakalaka. Fucking chair, move!
Oh, Terry, it's you! Have you seen Siobhan?
I was about to ask you that.
What did you do to that girl? I hope you don't intend to seduce her away from my service.
Abed, I need you to understand. You and I and Siobhan are all in critical danger. There's something evil in this hotel, and it's closing in fast.
Mr. Trilby, I've been over this hotel several times. Apart from us, there's absolutely nothing here. Please keep your fairy stories in the playroom where they belong.
Whatever, Negro. Do you know anything about an inn called the Unicorn?
Ha, you noticed my shingle. I picked it up as a curiosity at the antique fair a couple of years ago. Dates all the way back to the Elizabethan period, from what I understand. But I just can't find a buyer for the damn thing. Don't suppose you have any clients who might go for it?
Possibly. Do I have your permission to examine it?
Of course.
I may have to touch it to assess the texture.
By all means do so. As long as you're not going to test its strength over your knee or anything.
Alright folks, and that about wraps it up for this video. We will see the concluding final episode soon to come. Thanks for watching.